I like being sad. Hell, even miserable. Not like in general, but when a piece of media can make me sad or make me feel or relate to some sort of despair that a character is going through, I really enjoy that. Call that weird, but shows that can get an emotional response out of me are always my favorites. I'm sort of like a big, unmovable rock in tons of ways, but every here and then there's a series that just ties everything together and pushes me like a body of water would move a large boulder. Slowly, steadily, until something gives way and everything moves all together in a flash. Again though, this happens very rarely. Deku's relationship with All Might gets to me, Leonardo Watch's relationship with his sister gets to me, and even Satoru and Yashiro's relationship in Erase gets to me. These relationships are all meaningful in their own ways, but they also have an air of tragedy around them. If you see my Tokyo Ghouls a Romance video, you'd know that a tragedy and the ways that characters rise up above such tragedy or get drowned by it is something that I truly enjoy. Well, that brings me to what I think, personally, is the anime of the year for 2017. I could say Boku no Hero Academia wins. I could say Kekai Sensen and Beyond wins. Hell, I could even pull out Made in Abyss or something else. But nothing really touched me this year like Ancient Magus Bride touched me. Ancient Magus Bride is beautiful. I started watching this a few weeks late into its initial run, and it went from something that I curiously checked on a whim because I was hyped for Super later in the day and I needed something to watch, to being the anime that I look forward to the most on Saturday. If you haven't checked it out, the story revolves around Chisei Hattori, who's undoubtedly best girl for all of 2017. Chisei can see all sorts of things that she isn't supposed to because she's a slay beggy, which we'll get into later, and because of that, all sorts of strange creatures are drawn to her. Her father takes her younger brother and leaves, and after not being able to cope with all the strange things creeping into their life, Chisei's mother kills herself, leaving Chisei to fend for herself. Chisei eventually sells herself at an auction, and a large being buys her. She thinks that as long as she's not useless and has a place to stay, she's ready to deal with any sort of treatment. Chisei basically has given up on life, and resigns herself to whatever fate would have of her. And that's when we meet Elias. Elias is he's a strange creature, I'll say that. I'll break down what he likely is in a little bit once we talk about all the influences that the story draws from, but just know he's sort of a broken thing. Repeatedly throughout the story, we hear that Elias is some sort of being that's almost human, but in a monstrous way. Elias is also a mage, and mages are pretty rare nowadays, so he buys Chisei to raise her up to be a mage, but he also wants her to be his wife. This sounds so wrong. I mean, a young girl selling herself to slavery just to be bought by some giant monstrous guy who wants to turn her into his bride. Yeah, that's how people react whenever I explain the story to them. On top of this, Elias doesn't exactly love Chisei per se, because he doesn't really know how to, I guess. Elias doesn't understand human emotions. I mean, he gets them, but he doesn't know how to convey them. And he thinks he's incapable of feeling them. But over time, he explains that he feels cold when Chisei isn't around and warm when she is. That when she goes through pain or something tough, he gets an aching feeling in his chest. But when things go well for her or she does something to amaze him, he gets a strange feeling. These feelings are loneliness, love, sadness, and pride. Elias is capable of feeling, but his empathy has a long way to go. But where have we seen something similar before? I can't help but think that there's another super beloved story where a seemingly monstrous being and a young woman live together in a house with all sorts of magical creatures. A story where the young woman realizes that no matter how the monster looks, there's something deeper there. There's something to love. There's something to cherish, even if the monster himself doesn't know what it is. Oh, yeah, Beauty and the Beast. Well, you know how fantastical and magical Beauty and the Beast is? Dial that up to 11, and that's Ancient Magus Bride. Tons of people will cry about the dangers of having a character go through Stockholm Syndrome on screen, but they aren't actually watching the series if they think that. Chisei doesn't feel comfortable with Elias around because she's his hostage or his captive. Chisei isn't scared of Elias, and she's never been afraid of Elias. So, yeah, this anime takes all of the charm of Beauty and the Beast, but also takes all of the wonder from another standout anime this season that I've already mentioned, Made in Abyss. You don't just experience the world through the relationship that Chisei and Elias have and form through the first half of the season, but you also experience it through Chisei's relationships with other members of the world. Chisei meets all sorts of people that make the world feel lived in. It doesn't really feel like this is the beginning of a story. We meet characters that are thousands of years old and perhaps even millions of years old. We meet characters that see Elias as a child and characters that look up to him as an ancient being. It kind of shows us how long magic has been part of the world and how Chisei's involvement isn't this insane linchpin. Chisei is special, sure, but there's no greater crisis yet that the entire world is going through that Chisei has to solve. Because of this, we can see her beautiful journey of self-discovery and really follow her as she processes everything that she's seeing. This helps deepen and strengthen the bonds that we see her form with others, but also our bond with her. Chisei Hattori comes across as a timid girl. She's stubborn, doesn't like to ask for help, is easily embarrassed, is frail, but she's also a force to be reckoned with. As powerful as she could potentially be with the mastery of magic, Chisei is still this character that we as an audience want to protect. I mean, look at her. Look at the faces that she makes and how much she cares about others. How confused she is about her own feelings. How resolved she is when she finally makes a decision. This is all important because in the next season or arc of the anime, we have hints that a cruel fate awaits her, and if you aren't deeply invested into her character, then that wouldn't do anything for you. But the show does everything it can to get you deeply interested and invested into this character, and I think it does an amazing job. Another thing the anime does an amazing job at is taking mystical and fantastical ideas from the real world to incorporate them into the story. We hear all sorts of names and titles that come from different ancient lores. Chisei is a sleighbeggy, which in real life is a term used to refer to mythical fairies from the Isle of Man in Swedish lore. In the story, this means that her body is capable of absorbing and putting out a large amount of magical energy. Elias's origin is still quite vague and confusing. Many people have concluded that Elias is a Wendigo, a monster from Native American folklore. A Wendigo is a beast that forms when a person becomes cannibalistic, and they usually have the face of a reindeer. This fits Elias a bit because some of his earliest memories and desires are of eating humans, and the biggest theory about him in-universe is that he's a human that somehow got caught up in black magic. He could also be a Leshy though, a character from Slavic mythology, which is a being associated with forests and thorns much like Elias is himself. Leshies can also shapeshift and change their height and become other creatures, but they're also somehow related to fairies, just like Elias is in the series. These are two examples of how the series takes something rooted in the real world and expands upon the mythology. At its heart, The Ancient Magus' Bride is a story about a young girl finding her way through life in a fantastical world that she's struggling to understand. But it's definitely more than that. This is a pretty short video, I can't really go too deep into it because so much happens, but check out the first 12 episodes that are currently on Crunchyroll, and make sure to check out the next 12 as well to see the conclusion of this amazing story. I truly look forward to this more than anything all week, so hopefully me introducing it to you has given you a reason to check it out and experience all the wonder that the series has to offer. Let me know if you'd like me to revisit the series with another video once the next 12 episodes are over. Until the next video, I'll see you guys later.
無力で無意味な自分がそれでも心で